Merry, happy Friday, the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th. What a day, eh? Did you see the Strzok hearings?
I needed an exorcist.
He is, the guy, first of all, he has a mouth bigger than a sewer pipe. Evil just emanates from this guy.
I know.
You're right. He's so arrogant. He is so vile. Oh, well, he can smell Trump voters, but he didn't mean anything, and that doesn't affect his work. I love the congressman who said, so you write all this stuff. You say you draw the line between what you do and your opinions. You draw a hard line there, and they don't affect what you do, and they don't come into your work, except for the 5,000 plus emails where you lambaste Trump, call his voters all kinds of names, say you can smell them at a Walmart, say you're going to stop Trump, yada, yada, yada. Is that not outrageous?
Oh, man, yeah, that dude, there's a lot of people that captured some of his facial expressions, and it looks like a scene from The Exorcist. I go, what? Someone like...
Oh, yeah, he's a nasty, narcissistic sociopath.
Oh, I know. They put up a set of 5 pictures of his faces, one that looked like various demon-possessed.
Yeah.
And I go, well, at least nobody can accuse him of being two-faced.
Anyway, this guy lies to their faces because he thinks he's not going to be held accountable. Where are the demands for another special counsel to investigate the real crimes that have been done?
Yep.
Where is this?
It's a little bit of a rigged game.
And the latest Mueller tactic and deep state tactic is to say, oh, if Trump gets to appoint this Kavanaugh, which I hate this guy.
Yeah.
If he gets to appoint him, he should recuse himself from anything having to do with the Russia investigation if it comes to court. No, libtards, you get to sit in the back of the bus because, as Butthead said, elections have consequences. You're the losers, and you sit in the back of the bus. End of story. Have a nice day.
Go out there and win an election.
Yep, they get to sit in the back of the bus. Because elections have consequences, libtards. Oh, but Louis won the popular vote. I said that 7 million illegal voters don't count. Yep, 7 million.
Actually, I phrase it this way. I say that neither party campaigned for the meaningless pop vote. But if you subtract the illegal votes, your witch didn't win, in quotes, that either.
Right. Trump won by 4 million votes. 7 million illegals voted. Because the last time they did those numbers, the percentage of illegals said that about 3 million voted in the elections. Now, Obama imported millions more, and most of them are here in California. When I watched every state, and the numbers come in. And until they hit California, Trump was ahead in the popular vote as well as the Electoral College, which is how we pick presidents, because we don't want the lunatic states of California and New York making all the decisions for all the rest of the 50 states.
Yep.
So we had the popular vote in each state is the Electoral College. Each state gets a voice. I'm sorry that libtards want mob rule, and they don't care about other states and their needs and their interests. They just care about power by any means possible. But the Electoral College protects the minority vote, the interests of each state, so that states that are completely insane, like New York and California, do not get to control the rest of the country. When those when the popular vote numbers were coming in, because I stayed up all night on election night, I watched everything. I watched these idiots in the press have their meltdowns and throw things and have tantrums. You can't believe. You should go on YouTube. I don't know if these still are on there, but you should look at the election night reactions of these arrogant liberal assholes when they realized they were losing. I mean, the women were hyperventilating and running out for a break and screaming and saying they needed help and how could this be happening? And one man kicked his desk and threw everything off of it. This was on TV. They were TV hosts at late night. That's what they were doing. I was laughing my guts out at them. You would think these were Saturday Night Live skits. They were so funny. I have to take a break. I have to go for it. Oh my God, I have to. And this woman runs off the set. The rest are sitting there like they're totally shell-shocked. You know, like a bomb just exploded in their midst, and they're looking at, body parts. The guy heading this show, I mean, he was the worst. He started shrieking at Hillary. He started blaming the Democrats. He started blaming the voters. He started throwing things at the walls. He started kicking his desk. He started stomping around the set. They were loons. I mean, it was better than Saturday Night Live has been since the 70s. Oh, my God, you have to go online and look for these YouTube. I hope they didn't dump them all off. They were so amazing. So anyway, that was what happened election night. You had the popular vote coming in. Trump was ahead by about 3 million votes till it came to California and it switched to Hillary ahead in the popular vote. The entire popular vote came from California. Did you know that? Did you know that?
I don't even think California counts. I don't think they ever counted the absentee ballots. I think the absentee ballots.
No, they didn't.
Yep.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't report to Kobach how many were legal citizens. And now they're fighting the question of whether or not a person is a legal citizen in order to be counted for how many senators and so forth they're allowed to have. So they're not senators, congressmen.
Yep.
They want to stack the deck in every way possible. Why are foreign nationals voting and influencing our elections?
Well, yeah, that's not.
Why is that? They're worried about Russia?
Yeah,
why aren't they worried about Venezuela and Mexico and all these other countries influencing our elections?
Yeah, that's not foreign meddling, having foreign nationals doing activism on our soil other than voting.
Unbelievable. And these countries, they're socialist pigsties. They ruin their countries and then bring and vote their socialist garbage here. No, thank you. Oh, and you know what happened with the kids separating, ripped from their parents' arms at the border? Yeah. Number one, the girl they showed all over the place and on Time magazine. Her father said she just wanted a drink of water and was crying because she didn't get it right away. So that was a fake story. Number two, well, he said her mother took her without his consent.
Yeah.
She just abducted his child, basically. Now, here's the other thing. Now that Trump is doing the DNA testing because he's in a rush to reunite these people with their so-called parents, they're finding a huge percentage of these kids don't belong to the people that claim to be their parents. Because child abductions were done by criminals coming over the border to pretend they're parents and get right through.
But setting up a market.
They know every trick.
Well, I know, but setting up a market where kids are separated from their parents by kidnappers isn't a problem at all for the left.
Yes. Now, my liberal friend who works with me on the issue, for about a month I couldn't talk to her because she was totally played by this rubbish, and she was posting all this shit online on Facebook about, oh, these poor illegals and these children crying and the ripping, all that shit. I couldn't talk to her because she was insane. Okay, so I just let her be because, she'll hyperventilate and do her thing, and then sometime later she might come to her senses. Apparently people were posting on Facebook debunking the pictures she was showing. And I had told her before she stopped talking to me for a while, I said 80% of the women and children coming over the border get raped along the way. A huge percentage of the children that these people are pretending are theirs have been abducted so that they have carte blanche coming into this country. You want to reunite these children with their abusers? screamed and hung up. But then, a month later, sheepishly, she calls me about something else, and we're talking again, but not about that. Because, look, it was all debunked. Now, that doesn't stop. She's not a stupid liberal, okay? She's an old-time liberal. Liberals, basically, they're played by their emotions. I'm not saying don't have heart. I'm saying use your intelligence and your heart. You know, you don't want to reunite abducted children with criminals. You don't want to reunite them with their rapists. You don't want to put them in the hands of MS-13. You do not want to put them in the hands of criminals, pedophiles, or any other thing. DNA testing is expensive, and the taxpayers are paying for it. And it takes time. Meanwhile, the Democrats are pushing for instant release because they don't want the truth coming out about child abductions, rapes, and so forth. They don't want the numbers coming out that there's a reason to separate these children from the people coming over the border. And even when it is the parent's child, what kind of parent? Like the mother of that girl that was crying for a glass of water, okay?
Yeah.
Just because that's what babies do, and liberals don't have babies, so they don't know that. You know, one of the first things I told when she started screaming about that picture was, you don't know why a kid's crying. Maybe she has wet nappies. You don't know.
A crying child.
Liberals clueless. Kids cry because they didn't get some cookies.
I know, American kids.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not crying because they've been denied civil rights or because of whatever the liberals predict on it.
The American kids are cutting themselves and doing suicides because of liberal parenting. But, a child somewhere is crying.
Oh, yeah, and these parents that want their kids to undergo sex reassignment surgery, they should be arrested for child abuse.
Oh, yeah, plus for...
instead of going after people who have a Bible in the home.
I know.
Oh, my God. I said this is the fault of the American Psychiatric Association that would not deal with trauma and abuse, dissociation, and all the sequelae from it. They want easy cases. I heard two therapists in my favorite cafe sitting at a table right next to me, going on and on and on about how, oh, my God, they were going to go on their month-long vacation. Who gets a month-long vacation? And their stupid patients are making their life miserable because they're acting like they're being abandoned and whatnot. And why can't they just stop pestering their therapists? And why can't they just all have people who need help with work stress? Now, you know what's going through my mind, because I've worked with survivors of sexual trauma and abuse? I'm thinking, your stupid work stress people don't even need therapy. These idiots who go into this profession know nothing, don't care about people, just want to make an easy buck off stupid people. And they don't want to do the hard work of going back and repairing the damage from trauma and abuse, mainly sexual abuse, which is rampant in this society. And sexual abuse is at the bottom of lesbianism, gay problems, gay orientation, and transgender. Dissociation is at the root of real transgender. Forget about, idiot parents who decide that, it's cool to have a transgender kid and we'll mutilate it because we want to look important and politically correct. Right?
Yep.
This is the fault of the American Psychiatric Association for failing trauma survivors, failing to identify dissociation, failing to identify sexual abuse as being at the root. I asked a therapist I knew who worked with survivors of sexual abuse. I said, what do you see? Do you see in your practice a connection between lesbianism, gay orientation, and transgenderism in sexual abuse survivors? And she said yes, 40% of those who have been sexually abused have those issues. 40%. Now look at your overall population, okay? Gays and lesbians account for 2% of the population. Transgenders account for even less. What does this tell you about the genesis of these disorders? It's sexual abuse. Well, some people say, oh, I wasn't sexually abused, but I know I was gay since I was born. Describe the room you were born in. What did your doctor look like? I mean, you can't even remember that. You're going to tell me you knew what your sexual orientation was when you were born? Okay, next question. When did you first think you might be whatever? Not a projection from the past onto a projection from when you were older onto a past event, but when did you, if you experienced attraction to the same sex or thought you were a boy in a girl's body or vice versa? When did that thought first occur to you? 90% of the people I've asked, and it's been in the thousands, only came to that conclusion as adults. And why did they come to this conclusion? Well, I was always a tomboy. So was I. I didn't mutilate my body for it. In fact, when I was asked whether I was male or female on Scantron tests going back to when I was 10, I would put other. I had people complain about it. I put other. Why? Because I think like a guy, but I'm in a woman's body. Does it make any difference? No. It doesn't make any difference. And it's not about my sexual orientation. These are separate issues. It's not about, because I've always liked men. I preferred men from the time I was very little. I liked men because I liked to play their games. I didn't like baby dolls. I did like Barbies, but that's when I was older. But I didn't like baby dolls. Grandma kept trying to give me baby dolls, and I give them all back to her. So she kept them on her couch in her home, and every time I visited Grandma, there they all were. I did not want baby dolls. I figured I'd done my diaper duty by then because I had 5 younger brothers. I'd done a lifetime of diaper duty. I didn't need any more. Okay? That's just me. I wasn't oriented in that fashion. My mind was engineering, science, spatial reasoning, more aggressive than the average female. Yes, I have verbal skills like the woman does, and I'm detail-oriented, so I have features of both. I can't stand women indulging in their drama. The feelings, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God.
Oh, I learned a valuable lesson when I was selling a car to somebody.
Yes?
I used to kind of think there was one thing that you're thinking that, well, at least in a gay relationship, you don't have like a total wacky bitch, right?
Oh, no, you do.
The worst bitch I ever met.
Was a guy.
Oh, it was unbelievable. The guy was, he's a higher up, and his girlfriend, that's some stupid dude that's a bit younger and has a flunky job. He's buying his spouse or whatever a car.
Right.
So we're going over the car, we're going over the deal, everything's fine. And then I realize, oh my God, the car that we have now and the one coming in have one difference. There's these illuminated door sills where the Lexus thing lights up, right?
Yeah.
So the bitch starts going, well, we're just going to go to Pleasanton, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, we can still add them to the car as a part. But I have to let you know that it doesn't have it on the car from the factory, right?
Right.
So the guy's having a fit. And then the more mature guy, the provider, is like, oh, no, we're still getting the car. And they're going in to sign the paper. And this bitch is going, well, it's your car. You can do what you want, and I'm not going to do this. I mean, it was like a 4-year-old, like, having a tantrum. And it was like making this unbelievable scene. And I'm just like, holy crap. I mean,
right.
So much for not dealing with bitchiness. It was the most.
Now, remember what I said to you about male and female brains and hormones in utero?
Yep.
That makes a big difference in men and women's behavior. Whether they develop a female brain or a male brain is dependent on hormones in utero. It doesn't happen later in life because that's where the developmental thing happens. Okay, that's where the cross-wiring happens. So hormones in utero, he probably got a dose. I got a dose of the opposite. And, by the way, twins. If you have fraternal twins and one's a female and one's a male, the female twin will be influenced by the hormones the male twin puts out, and the male twin will be influenced by the female hormones the female puts out. So they end up being kind of androgynous. These are medical facts. Okay?
Yep.
Several people in praying over me discerned I had a male twin, and I absorbed the twin when it died into my body because it happened very early on. So I wasn't born with a twin because that twin died and was reabsorbed.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. That's how I was exposed to male hormones in utero. It can happen for different reasons.
It was like the cortisone thing that was effective.
Cortisone makes you aggressive, but it doesn't change. It doesn't switch male-female brain on and on. It has to happen in development in utero. Okay, so this is something, that doesn't change a person's sexual orientation. It does not change it, period. The only thing that changes sexual orientation or transgenderism is trauma. But hormones in utero can change whether you are basically a male brain or a female brain or 50-50. I'm more male brain than female brain. I have less of the female characteristics.
That's why you keep getting called a wife beater online.
Of course. Of course. People who aren't looking at me, I am male as far as they're concerned.
Yep.
And if I post under my name as a female, the men feel obliged to beat up on me. Which, if we met in a dark alley, you know what would happen to them. I don't care how big they are. I fought people twice my size in one.
Excellent.
I'm a pit bull person. There are reasons for this nobody needs to know, but that's how I am. I'm more like a male than a female. In a pinch, my hormones go gablooey. I release tons of steroids because steroid exposure shut down my ovaries, by the way. So that does influence my behavior after birth. My initial response is to pummel the hell out of an abuser.
Excellent.
Whereas women, their initial response, women with female brains, run, scream, whatever. I go for the gold. Okay, that's my nature now because of the way hormones influenced my development, both in utero and because of the steroids after birth. I had unusual upper body strength, which allowed me to throw that idiot who decided, I wasn't interested in him because he hadn't beaten me up and tenderized me for the act, gotten me in the mood. That was his dumb friend advised him that since I wasn't in the mood for sex with him, he should beat me up a little, and that would make me more in the mood. Okay, guys in their teens are dumb. And men who are honest will admit this. They don't understand what makes women tick. Now, sexually speaking, I'm female. I am not, interested in pornography. And beating me up is not going to engender what you want. No, man, I didn't get all romantic and think, oh, wow, what a guy. No, I picked him up and bodily threw him over a queen-size bed and out the door into the hall in one throw.
Excellent.
The Hulk came out. That's what I did. He ran out of there, like a bat out of hell. Good. I don't need this in my life. So those are this is like you can generalize this because I'm not built like a bodybuilder. But women who've had their children trapped under a car or in other extreme circumstances, there are legitimate, filmed, and documented instances where they picked up the car and got their kid out from under the car. Because even a woman without my hormone profile, under stress, puts out androgens. Stress hormones are androgens, by the way. And they can do a feat like that under extreme stress. This is a documented fact. Roid rages in people who've taken lots of steroids is a problem. Steroids, male hormones, make people aggressive, okay? It can be a burst, like in a situation like the mother has her child trapped under a car, or it can be more consistent, like me. I'm going to react more like a male in a pinch than a female, and that has been consistent my whole life. Does it bother me? No. There's natural variation in the population. There are women who are scientists, who are tomboys, who like sports, who are engineers, who do this and that, and they marry men, by the way, okay? Because that's not what makes you gay or lesbian. Trauma is what makes you gay or lesbian. Trauma, sexual trauma. Sexual trauma can make you transgender as well, because depending on how, everybody's unique, we're all snowflakes, depending on how trauma affects you, and who and what your abusers are and what they do and the environment you're abused in and when you were abused and what you feel is safe or not safe, some people take on the persona of the abuser and become like them. They become abusers because they were abused. And this happens more frequently with men. It's very rare with women because of the way their brains are. It also can screw up a person's sexual identity because they either want to feel safe by identifying with the powerful abuser or feel safe by avoiding all men in the case of women. Okay?
Yeah.
With gays, gay men fall into two categories. The masculine gay man who plays the male role and the feminized gay man who plays the female role, which you saw in full flower. The screaming queen, right? Okay?
The worst bitch I ever met in my entire
The worst. Yes, I agree. Men who act like bitches are worse than any woman I've ever met. I despise them. I have trouble dealing with bitchy women. I don't want to deal with bitchy men. They're a disgrace.
Yeah.
Be a man, you idiot! Oh God, there's nothing worse than an unmanly man. But anyhow, of course, bitch dykes who don't understand that they're lesbians because of their sexual abuse and take on the male role, they're offensive, but not as offensive as males who act like bitchy women. That's the worst. It's just the worst. I'm sorry. It's so undignified. But anyway, so when you couple, you take your gay male who was sexually abused, right? That's the genesis of, and men are much more, these are just differences in males and females. Men are visually stimulated and they're more immediately physically stimulated. Women, you got to work on to get them up into the mood. Anyone who's been around knows this. Teenage boys don't know this, but you know it and I know it, okay? Women are different in the way they function sexually.
Actually,
mood is important.
This teenage girl knew a lot of stuff because I started researching all the articles in Playboy since I was 12.
So you know about the differences between men and women in their sexual response.
Well, I had a pretty good head start because they were publishing all the Masters and Johnson stuff back then.
Masters said that was crap. I'm not talking about those idiots.
Yeah.
Did you know that they falsified most of their studies?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did. They were bozos. Forget about them. I'm talking about the biochemical studies and the legitimate studies.
Yeah.
Since women are different both in the way they are built physically, they don't have the immediate sexual stimulation that men do. It takes more. And they aren't visually stimulated. They're stimulated by the emotional environment. Okay?
Yep, I know all that.
The emotional environment, the getting them in the mood, the foreplay is more important. Men, they slam, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, they're much more.
Now, it's not hard. Yeah, but it's not hard and fast because you understand there is a natural variation in the population. Some women more aggressive sexually, some men less. But still, these are the stereotypical truisms. Women need to get in the mood. Hard porn doesn't do it for them. Men love hard porn. And I don't mean the disgusting, abusive kind. I just mean raw sexual images, okay? Men are more triggered and stimulated by that, and they're quicker to get aroused and climax than women are.
Yes.
That's the way we are biologically.
Yes.
So this is a given. So, again, hormones in utero do not influence that because that's the way the body is built, all right? But male gays, male-identified gays, because the nature aspect for a male is to be attracted to the opposite. The male-identified gay gets attracted to the female-identified gay. This is also a truism. It's obvious to see who in the gay relationship plays the man and plays the woman.
Yeah.
Now, how do men become women-identified gays? Lack of father figures in the house, over-identification with the mother, maybe no brothers, maybe sisters, lots of sisters. They are sexual abuse survivors, so they're aroused by male sexual activity because that was their first experience, okay? And they get hardwired to respond to that. It's like a Pavlovian dog thing. It can't be, it's not that they can't overcome it, because people have. But it is more complicated than, say, being addicted to booze or cigarettes. Once a pedophile turns a boy on by stimulating his by stimulating him sexually, he will associate sexual stimulation with the man who did it, with males, and then think that changes his sexual orientation. His development was interrupted. But it can be overridden by therapy, by working with the abuse issue, by resolving that, and by introducing him to, you know what, you can be pleasured by women, and it can even be better. Because who wants to fuck a fudge-packed butthole? Seriously. What?
Especially a damn hairy one.
Please. It's bad enough. Don't make it worse. So anyway, men can be reoriented to exclusive heterosexuality, and it happens in thousands of cases. Actually, over time, gay men, people who thought they were gay, tend to become heterosexual over their lifespans. That's what most gay people do, become heterosexual without the intervention of therapy. Do you ever hear this in the media? They never talk about it. Gays pretend they were born that way. They weren't. And we've talked about that aspect. They're not born that way. They're made that way by abuse. They're made that way because pedophiles get young boys and confuse them about what stimulates them. Raw stimulation and association. Association is the way our brains learn. If our first experience is of sexuality, which is a powerful experience, is with a man when you're a man, or with a woman when you're a woman, it carries a very strong impact, because every time you feel sexual, you will associate it with the same sex if that was your first experience. Now, lesbians tend to be different, again, because men and women are different. Sexual abuse impacts men and women differently. Women are more avoidant. Men will tend to act out the abuse done to them. Women will act it in. So women who were incested or sexually abused by men, they'll avoid men, they'll avoid sex, they'll become depressed. Some will gravitate towards women because they're looking for a good mother if they didn't have one. Because a lot of times, if you're an incest survivor, the
mother's an
the father's the abuser and the mother is the enabler.
Yeah.
So you don't have a good mother. You have a mother who dumped you because her husband's more important than her child. This happens.
Yeah.
So that sexual abuse survivor is looking for a good mother and is afraid of men. This is why they become lesbian. It's very rare where a woman sexually abuses a younger woman. That's rare. It does happen, but it's rare. The traditional lesbian is a sexual abuse survivor, usually the father, sometimes male relatives, and less frequently people outside the family who had access to them as a child. But who has the most access to a child? The parents. Who are the most prevalent sexual abusers? Men. There are many more women who are sexually incested than sex. Isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
When do you hear this anywhere? Do you hear this anywhere? Do you hear it on TV? Do you hear it when we discuss gay issues? Do you ever hear it anywhere? Do you hear that LGBT, whatever, that the roots of all of that is sexual abuse? No. And I traveled in those circles for many years because I worked with sexual abuse survivors through the church. And every single lesbian and gay that I met, 90% of them knew they had been sexually abused when they were younger. Some knew that influenced them in the direction of being lesbian or gay. A lot didn't know that. And what they said, the ones that knew, was, well, we can't say this out in public because then we won't get the political power we need. We have to say we were born this way in order to get political clout.